and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast that has never used a pronoun. My name is Brett Bodie, and with me as always are my two co-hosts.
Are you going to redact your last name?
No.
Oh my God.
I'm out and proud.
Okay.
I won't hide it. I've been hiding for an entire episode now, and I'm not going to hide anymore.
I'm proud of you.
you.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Samantha.
My cowardly coworkers.
Y'all have to guess my last name.
So, okay. I know that the first time we recorded was not an official episode, and not to accuse us of fucking up already.
No.
Accuse us.
But,
Don't do it.
but, should we explain what this podcast is?
I guess.
Yes. Why don't you take us away, Mel?
Right. So we're the Queer and Loathing podcast because Brett and I are queer and loathing, and Samantha is here too.
I am also here. I'm Samantha.
And one of you wrote a beautiful mission statement that I don't know where it is or what it is.
I believe that was Brett.
It was me, and I also don't know where it is or what it is, but I can find it so fast. I tell you what.
I found it the last time we met, so we can...
I'm a whiz at this Google Drive. Oh yeah, here it is.
Okay.
We want to share our love of horror movies and film in general. We discuss and analyze films through a 21st century LGBTQIA+, racially sensitive lens, using humor and our own unique perspectives.
Better than I could ever say it or remember.
Let's talk race. No. No.
Let's jump right in.
Don't mind if I do. So I think we're going to be a bit chaotic with how we structure our episodes because we're just going to do whatever we want.
Figuring it out, too.
And we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, we want to try things. But today is going to be a very special Earth Day episode. So happy Earth Day to those
Yes, happy Earth Day.
those who celebrate.
To those who
To the-
partake.
To those who celebrate.
And Brett, why don't you explain why you selected the movie for us?
Yeah, well, I just think Earth Day is such an important holiday. You know, I consider myself a bit of an environmentalist. Not in the sense that I do anything, but I worry about the environment, and that really counts. Like, the liberal guilt is, like, enough, I feel.
You for sure recycle.
I definitely recycle.
Do you suffer through paper straws?
Yes.
So you're in deep.
Okay, never mind. I'm an activist. I'm dedicated to the cause. I'm a DEI environmental activist.
I just had to bring my reusable straw because I don't suffer through
You
paper.
just leave it like lying
No,
on
I'm
a
not
shelf.
reusing it. I'm not.
It was
okay.
on a windowsill.
No. For clarity, I was so good. I did not buy a coffee on the way here, and I brought my own Coke milk.
Excuse me?
Okay, that's way worse than outing myself with my last name. You outed yourself as a Coke milk drinker.
What does that mean?
It's
Coconut milk?
No, it's
I was hoping.
okay. Here's the scene. Whatever's this? My Yeti, filled with ice. Then I pour some Coca-Cola over it, and then I top it off with some half and half. But the thing is, you got to continually stir.
I don't know why you're saying you.
I have to continue.
One must stir.
But
No.
I had my
Because it separates. Just the listeners, because I've seen it, it separates and it's
does if
so
you leave it
gross
too long.
looking.
Wouldn't the acidity of, like, does it curdle?
A little bit.
Is that the
You gotta
separation?
suck it down.
Yeah.
Not you again. You
It's
keep
not-
saying you, but
Okay, I
I
don't
would
drink
never do
it.
this.
I have to suck it down. And I have my straw, my reusable straw, because I don't like paper, but I do like a reusable straw, so it's silicone.
Yeah, it's like a bendy one.
Yeah.
Did you add tea to it, or is this the
I
second
did.
round?
I finished it's second round. I finished my Coke milk because again, you do have to drink it quickly.
So that it doesn't curdle.
Correct. So there was black tea available, so I dumped out the ice and made a black tea, and that's why my straw was on the ledge because I wiped it off and I set it away. But since we were talking about Earth Day, I had to brag about my Coke milk.
Oh, wow. Well, I always say fuck them turtles and then use a plastic straw. Okay, sorry.
Yes.
That derailed me because that is something I never knew about you, and now I know.
Been going
That's
on for
important.
decades at this point. I do cut it out for a bit, but since I had Coca-Cola in my fridge.
Not my
and I
fault.
had Not your fault. It's your fault.
I have so many questions. Wait.
I have
So
some answers.
Apparently, she's
Think
equated it
ice
to
cream
a,
float.
Yeah, she's equated it to an ice cream float.
but when
like a
you
Coke
cut okay,
float.
but when you said you cut it out for a while, it was the Coke you were cutting out or the
Yes,
okay.
both.
Okay.
Well, just the combined
Okay,
beverage.
just yeah. I
Because
have a
it's-
Coke problem. Don't quote me on it. It's Coca-Cola problem. So I try to limit myself, and I will be putting that half and half in it if I have it,
I feel a little
or
sick.
whole milk. But I prefer half and half in it.
Yeah, I was confronted with a few disgusting milk habits when Sam and I lived together with our friend Zach. He would just like drink whole milk like actually by the gallon. We cooked once. He was
But
like,
he's just like a white guy.
yeah,
Like 1/10 of white dudes will just sit there and drink whole milk.
yeah, he was a
I've
milk
learned.
weirdo.
Yeah.
But then Sam was also drinking her Coke milks, and I was like, I need to get the
To
fuck
be
out
clear,
of
we
this
were all
place.
depressed.
Yes, none of our eating habits were stellar.
No.
Myself, very, very much included.
Did we order Domino's frequently? That was 1 block away. Absolutely, deliver it to
Yes.
our door.
Yes.
Don't make me pick it up.
Oh yeah, and like,
a hard time.
but then we'd have to leave like to get ice cream.
Right, or Jack in the Box.
Yeah, yeah, it was not our finest moment. Anyway, this is still on topic because it all falls under the umbrella of Earth Day.
Correct.
Oh, I was like you
This
say
is
under
all-
horror.
No,
That too.
the horror of environmental destruction.
Oh, I was gonna say the horror of Coke milk.
Coke milk's incredible.
Well, that too, because I sure was horrified.
Okay. Well,
But
I'm
I've done
gonna.
a Diet Coke milk too, and it's not as good.
Oh.
When
I'll just
desperate.
believe you.
this is Samantha's Coke Corner, our new segment on the show. It
Yes.
probably may not be recurring, but you're listening to it now.
Oh, it might be.
Okay, so let's talk about the movie.
Yeah, so anyway, Earth Day, it's important. I don't know, I was going to say some bullshit, but I'm just going to get into it. So, since we're all sick of hearing so much about Earth Day, I figured we'd get out of this Earth and talk
Yes.
about a space movie, a scary, spacey movie. So, today we're talking about Ridley Scott's seminal 1979 classic, Alien.
Emphasis on semen.
Yes. Ridley Scott really puts that emphasis himself.
And we'll talk about that more because like I always have things to say about Ridley Scott's obsession
About semen.
with semen. I do bring it up every time his name is uttered around me
There was a lot of jelly in it, so.
and semen. But let's start
You
out.
mean man jelly?
No.
Oh,
Ew.
sorry, that's not woke of me. Person jelly.
I meant lubricant, but
Oh.
you know. I
Oh,
guess
okay, why,
close
yeah.
enough.
I was like, alright. So, Samantha, what? So all of us have seen this movie many, many times. We've all seen Alien.
Oh yes.
So spoilers ahead.
Yeah, spoilers will abound, just like if you know what happens. It's Alien. Even if you haven't seen it, you know
If
what
I have
happens.
seen it multiple times, you should have seen it already.
This movie's old as fuck. Samantha, what are your experiences with this movie? What's your history with it?
Wow. So, my experience, I've seen it a few times. I think most recently I saw it within the last year. Definitely saw it during COVID times when I was in a little like movie club. So somebody picked it. I think I needed to see Aliens, so we had to throw an Alien first. So I was like, okay, great. Let's do this. So me, as someone who's a scaredy cat, could do it. And I love it. And I identify with being a female powerhouse that nobody listens to.
Yes.
So-
Ripley goes through it.
Yes.
Yeah, we watched it together last night. Don't worry, we saved all the juicy good discussion for the pod.
We didn't speak to each
you're
other.
getting the primo content. But yeah, we definitely picked up on some themes of just like when you're the only competent one in the workplace
It's
and
a
you're
work-
trying to hold it
yeah.
down. But yeah, it's really it really is a workplace horror.
It is.
And it was really
Yeah.
became clear last night. In our
It hit
viewing.
differently last night than ever before. Before I was like, oh yeah, horror, aliens. I'm into aliens.
Yeah, and like Ripley's badass, and like
Yeah.
that always like was part of it. But,
But
I
I
didn't realize
felt
just like
it.
yeah.
It's like Office Space when you watch it as a kid.
Yes.
And then you watch it again after you've
you're like, I
worked in
get
an
that stapler.
office. And you're like, oh.
Like I get why they were trying to do crimes and just like hated every aspect of their lives.
And yeah, this was similar feeling. And Brett, what about you?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can even remember specifically the first time I saw it. I was always kind of aware of Alien. And again, I talked about this last episode, but like when I was a kid, I would just read a bunch about movies. I also had a review book of just like mini reviews of movies from like Time Out magazine. I think it's like an English magazine. And it would just have little like paragraphs about like thousands of movies. So I would just read what interested me. And they also had full pages devoted to like some of the classics. And I think Alien was one of them. Also, I watched Spaceballs like before Alien. So I kind of knew, I knew about the chest burster scene. But finally watching it, I think what really struck me was like it's kind of weird, but just like the production design, the claustrophobia of that ship, and just like it's the future, but like it is grim and dirty and grungy, and that the planet that they land on really does feel alien, like as opposed to like maybe a Star Wars world where it's just like it's this environment and it's the whole planet, it's all a desert, it's all a forest. This really just felt like alien rocks and like who knows what the fuck you're gonna find.
It was very much, I will not be leaving the ship,
they
but I will look from my window.
Yeah, but that was, I think, what really struck me. And then most recently what struck me is like how much it has almost the perfect horror movie structure throughout. Like before that was really solidified in the 80s. Like you've got your final girl, you've got like people being picked off one by one. They become gradually aware of the threat.
It's a slasher.
It's a slasher, and down to like you think the like final confrontation, you think the final girl has overcome everything, but there's that one last confrontation. It's the most intense one, and it's 1v1. Like it is just final girl and threat like duking it out, and that like it's really kind of amazing just how perfect like that slasher or horror movie structure is before that was even really a thing. Yeah, Mel, what about you?
So I think I mentioned it in the intro, but like I watched Alien for the first time when I was definitely younger than 10. And of course it just
I would have died.
scared the shit out of me. It scared the shit out of me.
Yep.
I wasn't like some super like desensitized like 7-year-old. Like it absolutely freaked me out. And I've always liked it. And I feel like there's always that sort of conversation, or maybe I just have this conversation with a lot of people where it's like, oh, do you like Alien or Aliens better? Like, which one do you like more? And there's never any wrong answer to choosing between those two. There are wrong answers outside of those two. But I always sort of found myself saying Alien because it is just a straight up horror genre. I mean, yes, it's science fiction, but Aliens is like an action movie. And so I always found myself saying Alien, but like in all honesty, I probably rewatch Aliens way more because it's a fun time.
I do too.
Whereas Alien is a miserable time. Like everyone is having a terrible time. I think that was my biggest like revelation rewatching it, besides realizing it's a workplace drama / horror, is when it starts out and I'm just looking at all these people and I'm like, oh man, they're gonna have the worst time. Like they are not signed up for it. They don't want to do it. It's not like Aliens. We're not going to talk too much about Aliens, but it's not like those people are like mostly like, hoorah, let's go. We're excited. These people are immediately don't want to be there.
Yeah, they're miserable blue collar workers at the end of their shift. They're only supposed to be awakened, I think, when they get back to Earth. So they wake up and they're already so disgruntled because they're like, what the fuck is the company doing to us this time? Like, we're not where we're supposed to be. Their immediate concerns are their bonuses, their shares. They want to just get their money and get out of this mission because it must fucking suck. I mean, just looking at that ship and like how they treat each other.
They're so tired.
Oh, they hate it.
They don't like each other.
That may have been obvious, or maybe you'll get to it later. Was Android Dude in stasis as well?
Yes,
I don't remember.
He was. He came out of the sleep pods.
So he was, I think it's not the only, it's the only canonical Alien movie where the android is a secret. Because usually they're like, oh, this is our android, right? But this one, they replaced their other science officer, like on, like right before the mission on the DL.
Yeah, they said it was like 2 days before they left. The science officer that Dallas had flown out with 5 times was replaced by Ash, who was just like company grunt. And clearly the company was trying to hide it, and that's why they put him in stasis, and no one knew that he was an android. And honestly, on this rewatch, I found that to be like the scariest scene.
Oh, when he's just flipping out.
Yes. Well, and because Ian Holmes' movements are so unnatural and creepy, and like he's doing things that don't make sense in a way that terrifies me.
In people.
When he's shoving that magazine in Sigourney Weaver's
Right.
mouth, and you're like,
Like, what are you doing?
Why?
and obviously it's very much in keeping with the like alien
Yes.
themes of like penetration,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's obviously like kind of an extended rape metaphor. But yeah, that like really freaked me out because it's like, why would he do
It's
it?
so weird.
Yeah, it's so weird, but that's what made like that's so alien. Like that
Yeah.
behavior is so foreign to like humans, and his motives are just solely like he is just like the platonic ideal of just like the company man. He just does whatever the company tells him. He's there to protect the company's interest.
A
And he's
literal
literally a
android,
machine
yeah.
created to preserve the company's financial interest in this mission because they want that specimen.
Yeah, let's talk about the movie. So let's go through it. Something that you were talking about, Brett, that really impresses me about this movie too is the time and effort and thought that just goes into all of the set design. The sound design is really notable. You know, like the tagline for the movie was, "In space, no one can hear you scream." And there's so much pointed silence in the movie, or no score with just sound effects, like the chair squeaking around, or like the gross rain room that
Yeah,
one
the
guy.
chain and rain room.
Chain
as
and
we called
rain,
it.
the chain and rain room, and it's like,
I'm sorry. I was just reliving the enjoyment of the rain.
oh, when
Oh
the
yeah,
guy
when he
was,
opens his mouth and you're like, that's just ship water. Like that probably used to be your
Shit
shit.
water also,
Yeah,
yes.
that is
Yeah.
reclaimed water, as they say.
Ugh.
And you're just putting it in
He was
your
having a
mouth
great
there.
time.
Harry Dean
And I
Stanton was
hated
really
it.
loving that water, and I was not loving it.
as you said, it just looks like gross and claustrophobic and dirty
Yeah.
and lived in. And as someone who's watched a lot of cheap science fiction horror movies, mostly ripoffs of Alien,
Yes, almost invariably.
like it takes time and effort to like put in the thought to make your set look not new. It's like a very thorough choice that I really appreciate.
It really gets you in the scene, in the moment, and like you're like, oh, I'm on this ship too, and it's gross.
Like I don't want to
Yes.
be. I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And it's the idea of like, obviously it's space, so there's not sunlight. They're just working in like
Right.
cramped darkness the whole time.
And is spot cleaning priority? Like
Right.
shining it up? No.
No, and like the maintenance staff like are like rude dudes with bad attitudes.
Ooh.
You know, they're just like kind of harassing Ripley and giving her
Oh,
sass,
yeah.
and just like I can't imagine they're like keeping the ship in like tip-top shape and
They're
keeping
Lysoling
everything
the
squeaky
whole
clean.
thing.
Yeah, I don't think so. Notably, one exception that I noticed last night is kind of one of the opening shots of the movie. There's like the shots of the ship, and it's this gorgeous like miniature model of this amazing ship, and it's a kind of a slow pan, and it's very similar to the opening of Star Wars: A New Hope, which just like,
With the destroyer.
oh yeah, and it just captured my imagination so much as a kid. Like that kind of shot of just like, it's this huge ship, and it's so weird looking, like it's not just some flying saucer. It's like a weird, bulky ship. But after that, it pans to their like, whatever, their stasis, like sleeping pod room. So to me, that was like the birth metaphor starts really early because they're in this like sterile white room. They're in these like kind of womb-like containers that are kind of see-through. They're very slowly emerging and stretching. It's kind of like it's not a time lapse, but I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like kind of fading between moments. And yeah, it just struck me as so like, this is like their kind of rebirth into this movie. And I think it just really primes the audience to like be in that headspace of like not consciously, but like subconsciously, you're like, okay, there's lots of birth imagery. There's going to be something about birth. And since it's a horror movie, it's the worst, most violent birth possible. I hope it doesn't get worse than that. But it may in one of the
I
sequels.
think, I think it's gotten worse in some of the sequels or
Yeah.
prequels. Like I think there are grosser ones for me, but not more iconic.
Yeah. Definitely.
Something you kind of led me to just now. When we were watching it last night, there were moments where at the beginning of the movie where I was like, "Ooh, the music is kind of reminding me of The Rite of Spring." Like there were moments which is so fitting with birth and renewal because like
Yes.
it's Rite of Spring, return of spring and renewal of Earth. Oh, and then reading this, what is this? I'll give it. This is study.com because I just Googled it. The return of spring and the renewal of the earth through the sacrifice of a virgin chosen to dance herself to death. So, I don't
How
know.
does that song go?
But that's not the part I was thinking
It's
about.
a ballet and orchestral work by Stravinsky.
Stravinsky, yes.
And it is super
It's so
cool,
good.
actually. And if you YouTube it, there's some videos with like the choreography, and it's so just like violent and
Yes.
angular and primal, and it's actually super fucking.
It's
cool.
incredible.
Highly recommended YouTubing it because it actually is. Very
I've probably heard it before.
You probably have. I've been fortunate enough to be able to perform it as a musician, not as a dancer.
Not as a
Yes.
scat artist.
Not as a scat artist yet. But there are a lot of moments through the movie that made me think about that. So credit to, let me look up that composer, Jerry Goldsmith, the
Oh,
composer.
he's done a lot, hasn't he? I know that name.
I don't, but I guess I will be getting to know this name. But yeah, I'll come back around with some more music notes I had, but closer to the end. So this is your little reminder. But wanted to bring that into with your talk about birth.
Yeah, I'm glad you did because, oh yeah, and also, just as an aside, Rite of Spring is famous because it was so shocking in like
Shocking.
1913 that there were like riots at the
Yep.
premiere because it was so not what people expected from ballet and concerto. So people just like had their minds blown, which is kind of similar to the reception of Alien because people's minds were blown apart by that movie.
I
in
was saying
1979.
that last night where I was like, I can't imagine it's like 1979. I'm going to the movie theater. There's this weird horror science fiction type movie. And then you're just seeing lubed up vagina monster just dripping and poking things. And it's just, it must have been very shocking.
Oh yeah, to see just like that much representation of like goopy genitals.
Oof.
But yeah, going back to the beginning and how it starts, I think it's interesting that they chose not to do any kind of like cold open kill as the audience, right? Not as millennials who were basically raised generally knowing what the movie was about. But like if you're just watching this movie, you've never seen it before, you don't know what it is, there must be just so much unease of something's going to happen, you don't know what it is. There's no indication of like what this monster would be.
That's true because I believe the poster is just maybe like a representation of like the egg that the chest burster comes out of, but you don't know what it is. There's no monster depicted. It's just like weird egg in space. The tagline, in space, no one can hear you scream, and that's all you know going in.
And it takes a while to get to those eggs. Like there are horror elements leading up to that moment. There's bureaucracy. There's arguments about what, the contract states, workplace horror.
Yes.
And I really love that about this movie. Not that I hate a cold open. I dream of someday being killed in a cold open.
Oh,
Not that I'm an actor,
too.
but like that'd be so cool. But I do love that there's just this unease where you are as unknowing as the people in this of like, what are we getting ourselves into? And you don't want to be there with them.
Yes.
And it's nice that it's not rushed.
No, it takes its time. It takes its time, and it really gets you to know each of those characters.
Yes, I wanted to talk about that briefly. Just like I love the way the movie does character development because it's not kind of the modern or even just like general hack writer of like, I'm character A and I have this trait and that's it. And maybe I have a dead child. It's just like, it's always something like that. It's like, here are my two things and that's the whole character. In this, you don't find out that much concrete information about any character, but it's so much more important for the story that you get a sense of like their rapport, how they interact. You start to see the hierarchies develop, and that's what makes some of the tension later on when like orders are disobeyed
Just
and there's
blowing off Ripley.
right, and it really puts you in Ripley's, and I like that it puts you in Ripley's shoes gradually. She's not necessarily the main character from the get-go.
Yeah, I mean, if you go into this, you might be like, oh, I wonder if, yeah, like John Hurt is going to be our lead, or oh, is the captain our lead, or like these people who you recognize more.
Yes.
And it's not until, I guess, you know, as you're finding Ripley is the only competent person.
Yeah, and you would think it had not, I assumed, not having seen the movie, that Ripley would have been going to the alien ship and discovering the threat. And that's not what happens. She is on the ship, she's on the bridge, or then Ash is in like communications, or maybe it's reversed. But like, she's just kind of running support from the mission from their ship. She doesn't go out and find the threat, which I thought was interesting. She's not the protagonist who like kicks the hornet's nest. You know,
She's the third in command.
which
she takes seriously and no one else does.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Can we get into like the quarantine protocol, and especially post-COVID, how fucking maddening that whole thing was. Okay, so what's his name has been attacked. Tom Skerritt, Dallas, right? Is that who that was?
Wait.
No, John Hurt
what
gets
is his name?
attacked.
Dallas was
John
later.
Hurt. Kane gets attacked. So they're returning to the ship.
But Dallas is with him.
Yes, Dallas is with him.
And other lady.
Yes, and Veronica Cartwright, who plays Lady
Lambert.
Lambert.
I have it in front of me. I'm cheating.
Yeah, so they're trying to get back on. Obviously, they're understandably so freaked out. Like, he's got a crazy fucking, like, alien.
There's something through his helmet.
Right, it ate through his helmet and is attached to his face, and they don't know if he's alive or dead. Like, we find out later he's comatose, but, like, they carry him back. They're panicking. They're like, let us in. We have to get inside or he could die. But Ripley says, I'm sorry, we have this quarantine protocol that is company policy, and I am in charge, and I will not open the door. We need to observe quarantine. And they're like, he could die. Like, do you hear me, Ripley? That's an order. And she says, yes, I read you, but I will not be opening the door.
That's right.
And you're just like, thank you. Like, quarantine is so important, because like, even apart from the creepy critter, what if that creepy critter has a virus that could infect humans? You can't know. There could even be other threats. She's very just firm and calm. She's just, no, I'm not going to open the door. And Ash, who is the science officer played by Ian Holm, aka Bilbo from Lord of the Rings, he just opens it. Like, he's just there at the door, and he like manually opens it and lets them in. And just the like disgust on Ripley's face when that happens. And you can feel it, because you're like, she's right. And even if I didn't know this was a horror movie and didn't know it was coming, she would still be 100% right. She had the authority, and she was following protocol for everyone's safety.
And you could still make the horror movie work and the plot functional if they had listened to her, because if you could imagine, there's the three of them stuck out there. They don't let them in. John Hurt eventually wakes up. He's like, I'm fine. And Ripley's like, no, you can't come in. And then he dies. Chestburster pops out. Dallas and Lambert are flipping out. I think you could still make it work where like they run in and either the little baby xenomorph gets in too, or it gets in through, I don't know, like an engine crevice, some kind of plot device thing. Yeah, something. It gets in anyway. But I think that like the point is, fuck you, Ridley Scott.
Yes.
No, it's hard for
Get
me
it
where
out.
Ridley and Ripley, like it's hard for me. But it's like fuck you, Ripley. Like, everyone on this ship is stupid and doesn't respect you, and you are the only one who like paid attention during your training. You're the only one who like bothers to try.
Yes.
And not to be that person, but how often do we see a woman in the right in the workplace? Like, I'm following the rules, and I do feel confident in my decision right now, even if it wasn't in the rules, and just get steamrolled.
Yep.
And what
By
happens?
Mr. Man.
And what happens in real life happened to her, which is all of those other people start getting laid off, aka eaten.
Yes.
And then she has to start doing their job. until at the very end she has been quiet hired into being the last standing employee.
And how much less do you know she's paid?
She is not paid anymore.
Oh, you know she's not making shit.
We
She probably makes more than the
know.
maintenance
Did she
guys,
even
but, like,
earn her pay?
We know what
Please.
happens to her
Yeah.
because in Aliens she doesn't get paid.
And she
has to go to work.
And she's called in to like talk to like explain herself to corporate like 5 million times, right? She has to stand in that boardroom in Aliens and just be like, here's what happened. And they don't believe her, but they still make her come in 1 million times.
Yeah.
And she doesn't get paid. Oh, yeah, it is so infuriating viewing the movie through that lens. Yeah, so that really starts that moment where Ash opens the door and lets them in and breaks quarantine, really sets up their conflict, which is a lot of like the first like half to 2/3 of the movie. And I really loved it, especially this most recent viewing. I just found that so powerful, and like she distrusts him. I guess we'll get to this scene later, but first they take him to the like med bay, I guess, the infirmary on the ship. And Ash is like he's the science officer, so I guess he's also the main medical guy. It's kind of vague. And then the captain is assisting him. And they're just like, but they got their little masks on.
Tiny respirators.
They were ready.
Yeah, their little PPE. Yeah. And then they immediately take it off. Ash literally says, "Take your mask off," and I'm like, y'all, that's not gonna.
They're
age
sticking
well.
their face close to everything. Because
Yes.
even when they're on the alien ship, they're just putting their face right next to the big
Yeah.
freaky
Oh,
sarcophagus
yeah.
thing.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the.
They're just so
the-
stupid. It's like these people are not scared enough.
No, right.
Correct.
Like, and I get it to an extent. They've received this distress signal. The company is requiring them to go check it out or they won't get paid at all. They literally have to stop on this planet and go investigate the source of the signal. That said, I don't think that means get all up in every nook and cranny of the ship and like get face to face with this like
Get real
freaky
close.
alien who's been ruptured from the inside. They know that from looking at him. They like say it. This like whatever alien. They also seem very unfazed by just like this ancient alien who's been violently killed in some way, and they're just like, oh. Like Dallas was up like so close to his face. I was like, they're gonna have a little kiss. Gonna have a
They
little
probably did.
smooch.
Deleted scene.
Oh yeah, that's a director's cut.
Right.
But yeah, and then they lower what's his name down into like the pit where all the alien eggs are. There's like a mist covering them, a layer of mist that is reactive. He says like there's a
Yes.
reaction when I touch it. And then his dumbass just like loses his balance and falls into the pit.
Like I saw my toddler do this morning. I was like, sir. Not to my toddler, but to this guy. But like,
Your toddler needs more practice in their spacesuit.
correct. So we'll be working on that on weekends, so that way this situation does not happen to them. Like, they can not toddle onto some space eggs.
But it's
like
not
this
even,
man.
It's not even the falling on the eggs that really got me. Because, like, I'm clumsy. I'd be
Yeah.
falling on shit. But it's like I would have scrambled away
Get
from
out!
that
Yes.
so fast. I would have been like flipping out, yanking on my rope, get me up. I hit the eggs, get me out of
Yeah.
here. But, like, he just is like, oh, I can see there's something moving in there. It's trying to get at me.
Yeah,
Let
that
me
was
just
the
get my
worst.
face closer. And I know, like, we have the benefit of having watched the movie before, but I would
Yes.
still like to think that if I was in that situation, I would have a little bit more critical thinking skills.
Me too, and especially because, like, yes, you have to check out the distress signal, which is not coming from the egg that's moving around, right? The company's not
Right.
requiring you look at this egg.
This is
that's
not-
not the source of the SOS.
Good point.
Like, at all. Like, you already went to the control room where the dead alien was. That would be where the signal is from. At that point, you should leave.
People really like to shit, including me, on Prometheus and Covenant, not to bring them into this.
Sorry, I did
but
like Prometheus.
But people like to crap on them because they're like, wow, all these professionals are so stupid.
Yes.
And it's like, no, this franchise has had stupid people in it from the beginning.
That's true.
There are so many stupid people. I think Aliens has the most competent people in it.
Yeah.
But like, even then, those guys clearly didn't like really read the brief.
That one guy who's like the commander, who's that like inexperienced commander guy in Aliens?
Yeah.
Like, he is such
He's
a moron
incompetent.
in that.
He's
he
incompetent.
is like so incompetent.
But like the Marines, like they should have read the brief. They didn't. They're like, we just shoot things.
Yeah.
But like, they're at least competent at their job.
Yes.
In some ways, like they should read, but like.
But they do shoot the thing and like.
They do try to shoot the thing.
They did the thing.
They did their thing. But like in this one, it's like your crew is just blundering
In their
around.
defense,
Even
they got
the
woken
captain.
up early. You know what?
They did.
When
They were
I get
groggy.
woken up from my sleep early, I'm gonna stumble on some eggs. Just saying. Don't hate me. The look Mel is giving me right now.
Just stumbling on some
stumble on
eggs.
some eggs.
I hope that's for your breakfast.
I hope so.
Okay, we'll table that and come back later.
Don't kill me.
Yeah, but I did want to highlight the amazing, again, the set design for the alien ship control room with the big dead alien on the like
Yeah.
chair or whatever. Especially because in my mind, there are two alien movies. There is Alien and there is Aliens. The end. All the others are like Marvel, what if? It's like, oh, maybe this could have happened, but I don't consider it like canon to my enjoyment of the series. So like, that's not an engineer. That's just like a weird alien that like could be like thousands of years old for all we know. Just like sitting there like, what was it doing? Where's the rest of them? Does this civilization still, are we gonna come in contact with the civilization? Did they die out like millions of years ago? And this like planet's atmosphere has preserved it? Like that to me is so
love
much more
that
interesting than
feeling.
finding out the backstory. I don't want the lore.
No, I agree with you, but it's like,
it's
yeah,
so
that's
cool when it's vague and just like
it's
you can
those
imagine
questions
anything.
where some shitty, suit is like, we should exploit.
Let's make some money.
Let's make some money, y'all.
Yeah, which I can understand, and I'm not like none of those other alien movies like retroactively at all diminish the ones I love. Like
Yeah.
I would never be like that ruined Alien. No, Alien still exists in its glorious original form.
So let's think about something we do want to think about, which is robots filled with semen.
Yes, let's get back to Ash. So yes, they're on the ship. They try to cut the face hugger off of him. There's acid blood. And then I love there's like mad dash through the ship as they're like trying to stop the like.
I love that.
What can they do? But like, what are they gonna do? Just not run after it and find out? Like they have to just like
Yeah.
see. So they're just scrambling, trying to find where the acid is eating through the floor, and then like looking up at the ceiling.
I do love that one moment of like competence where when it is like life and death for them, you could see that they could be good.
Yes.
When they care and they're
Dallas kind of
motivated.
steps up in that moment because he
Yes.
like sees that it's kind of stopping.
Immediately.
Like the acid is deactivating, and he's like testing it with the pen, and like. So then he knows that crisis has been averted. Like it's not going to eat through the hull because that was their concern.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can get it together, which makes the rest of their incompetence, especially Dallas because he's the captain,
I
all the
mean,
more frustrating.
I would argue that they're really only incompetent, like really incompetent, before the face hugger. Because I think that once they're like in emergency mode,
Yeah.
like it just becomes clearer because like Ash is really, really seems incompetent to Ripley, right? Because she's like, what is Mother saying?
Yeah.
What is Mother
well,
saying?
I think it's almost more like I don't know if she even thinks that he's incompetent.
He's just
She's-
secretive.
Yeah, just like
keeping
there's
things.
something calculated about him, and he's not sharing his mission because he's like, "Oh, I'm still collating," and she's like, "Oh, are you?" I find that hard to believe. She says.
I mean, but
That
like
really weirded me out about him. I was like, what are you collating?
he's collating.
Oh, what?
Sometimes you gotta
That previous
collate.
scene where he's looking at something on his screen, he's like looking at a scan. Ripley comes in and is like, "Wow, that's really cool," and he immediately shuts it off, as if he was like a teenager caught with pornography. He just like shuts it down and is like, "Oh, hi."
It was his pornography.
I mean, I
Obviously
think it
she-
was the egg inside Kane or whatever.
I think it was too, and obviously she's so suspicious because he's clearly hiding something from her. She came here to confront him about why he broke protocol because she's like, "That's science department protocol. Like that, sir. That's your department, and you flagrantly disobeyed my order when I was in command of the ship." And he's just so evasive. He's like, "You do your job, and I'll do mine." And she's like, "Yeah,
She's like,
I was trying."
"Yeah."
to
She was
do
like, yeah, I was
right."
doing my job.
I was the only one doing my job. Yeah, that scene really creeped me out.
I'm going to push back a little bit. The alien was also doing its job.
Let's take a quick ad break. This episode of Queer and Loathing is brought to you by Quit Your Job. You'll feel better if you quit your job. Ripley should have quit her job. I quit my job. Brett, did you quit your job?
You know what? I can publicly confess that I did recently quit my job.
And you should consider it too. Be like a xenomorph parasite on society. Gestate inside the womb of late-stage capitalism. Burst out of the stomach of an incompetent man.
Oh.
And
I'm tearing up. This
take
is
all of his
beautiful.
shit. And I think that you'll, and then take a nap.
Wow.
Wow.
You're
You
checking all
didn't
the
have me till
boxes.
then.
Hot
well,
damn.
I guess take his shit.
I'm gonna use this ad break to cool down because that ad read got me really hot.
Yeah, use coupon code Queer and Loathing 20 when you quit your job, and don't give 2 weeks.
Just leave.
Just leave. Take a lunch break and don't come back.
Take a really long lunch break.
All right, we will see you in a second.
Hello everyone, this is Later Editing Brett here, and I'm so sorry to inform you all, but we've decided to split this episode into 2 because it's so fucking long. So this is just letting you know, we will not be immediately returning after the ad break, but you can head on over to episode 2, which is Alien Part 2. Until next time, I'm Queer, I'm Loathing, and I'm Samantha. Take care, everyone.